So this is probably one of my absolute favorite charts to use when it comes to lithium batteries. We think of the term lithium ion, and we really think kind of every single thing falls under that same umbrella of lithium ion, and it does. But there's key differences between each chemistry within that umbrella. So as you can see here, we've got 5 different chemistries here that are all lithium ion chemistries, from lithium iron phosphate to some of our cobalt-based lithiums. So really, when we go through this chart, we can see the biggest difference and the most important difference we see is the very first column there, which is no chance of thermal runaway. So catching fire, think your cell phone in your pocket getting hot. With lithium iron phosphate, we don't have that issue. With these cobalt-based batteries, there's definitely a really high chance of thermal runaway, and they do require cooling systems to operate to make sure that does not happen. Our batteries do not require cooling systems due to lithium iron phosphate chemistry, and it also renders these batteries non-toxic and the ability to not require ventilation, and even more recyclable. So we can actually recycle these batteries a lot better, and they're more desirable when it comes to recycling and reusing things at the battery's end of life. So after Simpliphi has picked our chemistry, we also need to pick a form factor that we're going to house this chemistry in to build out these batteries. On the right, you're going to see here a few things. You'll see the pouch cell, the cylindrical cell, and the prismatic cell. These are kind of the main building blocks, at least right now, in the solar energy, renewable energy sector, and really just all-day kind of products. So pouch cell, oftentimes I think about like a laptop or a cell phone. This is often commonly a pouch cell. These are a bit tricky to use when it comes to large-scale batteries or just building out a battery big enough to kind of do what we want it to do and cover, house demands and things like that. They have these small tabs, if you can follow my mouse here. Those are actually the positive and negative. So when you have a battery using these pouch cells, you might see some shortage oftentimes, or some swelling and cracking. Now on the right here, the prismatic cell. This one I don't see used as often anymore, but basically these are large, kind of cumbersome blocks that can make it kind of difficult to build out a battery with, as they limit the way that you can actually build that battery and how you kind of situate everything when you put them in series. Now the cylindrical cell is probably the most commonly used cell, no matter what the chemistry is, what the application is. I mean, think AA battery. That is a cylindrical cell form factor. So these are great because they tend to show longer cycle life. They don't have a chance of short circuit so much unless they actually were put together as a short circuit. And they all over just kind of mechanically more stable. So I've already given it away, but what we manufacture with is a lithium iron phosphate chemistry using a cylindrical cell form factor to build out these battery blocks. So because of this, pretty much every product within our product line has the ability to kind of sit behind some claims and some warranty parameters that we can actually stand behind. So within warranty, as far as depth of discharge or usable capacity pulled out of the battery, we offer 3 different levels, as you can see here. So at 80% depth of discharge, meaning you're only remaining 20% state of charge after you've discharged, 10 years, 10,000 cycles warranted. At 10% depth, 90% depth of discharge, 10% SOC, we warranty 10 years, 5,000 cycles. And at 100% depth of discharge, it is 10 years, 3,500 cycles. So we'll kind of go into that later about why you would want to use each of these in different scenarios, but definitely keep these in mind for a little bit later on in the presentation. You'll also see a term end of life, or commonly in a warranty, it'll just be referred to EOL. What this is really talking about is what the battery's kind of warranty capacity will be at the end of the warranty period. So at 10 years, 10,000 cycles, we're guaranteeing that the EOL, or the remaining capacity, will be 80% of the battery's original capacity. If you look into some other warranties for some other lithium batteries, I encourage you to do so. You'll find some pretty low numbers on that EOL, as low as 50%, and oftentimes 60% is the kind of norm. So we're definitely saying that it's going to last a lot longer, and you're going to see that same capacity for a lot longer as well. As far as the temperature window that we offer, this is kind of the easy to look at. Operating and charging temperature. So operating -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Charging temperature, the more important one, this is 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or 0 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius. So basically, what this allows for is, first and foremost, no need for coolant, for HVAC, or for ventilation within the batteries, as they can withstand these really high temperatures. It also helps us on the low end. If you look into some lead acid manuals, warranties, you'll find that this number on the low end is extremely high compared to what we can offer. All right. Every single one of our battery also comes with an integrated battery management system, or BMS. So basically, these are internal, they're not external, there's no cables running between them. They're just designed to handle each battery module on their own. Their main function is protection, so charge and discharge protection, short circuit protection, overcurrent protection. The idea being that internally, if it sees things it doesn't like, the BMS will try to go into a state of self-protect in order to prevent damage to the battery. It also does a function called cell balancing, very important when it comes to any type of lithium chemistry. Lithium wants to stay out of balance. This helps keep the battery in balance, the cells in balance, and internally keeps everything even across the board. Even though this BMS is internal, when we have a large system, let's say we have 80 batteries in parallel, even though these BMS, these battery management systems, are not hooked up to each other, they can still provide these functions as well as the cell balancing to build up these larger systems. So some of the key features of the batteries, as far as kind of getting into the deeper stuff here, power capacity is definitely a big advantage when it comes to the Simpliphi battery. What I'm talking there is fast and adaptable discharge and charge rating of C/2. So for anyone that's just a little shaky on C ratings, a C rating is just a measure of the rate at which a battery is discharged or charged relative to its maximum capacity. So basically, with the C/2 rate, we're saying that if you have a 3.5 kilowatt hour battery from us, you can discharge 1.75 kilowatts per hour up to 2 hours. So basically half the battery's capacity continuous. Now you can discharge higher as far as surge ratings go. If you look in the spec sheets for any of our batteries, you'll find that surge rating at 10 minutes. But as far as continuous discharge, this is how we rate the batteries. This helps us kind of get a smaller battery bank to supply some more significant power demands. Like in an air conditioning unit, you won't need as many batteries to be able to cover those high power demands. We also allow for really easy scalability and expandability. So scalability being simple parallel wiring configurations built up to large scale, no communication lines running from each one, and we can really scale up the energy and the power on these larger systems. I'm going to jump ahead here. Oh, okay, I'll jump back and then we'll go ahead here, but I do have a slide that shows some good scalability within this. Expandability, which is we'll go to the next slide here. This is probably I think we're one of the only companies that I've seen in the lithium world right now that offers this. This is the ability to go back and add new batteries to old batteries. So basically an older system, if they decide they want to add more batteries to the system, we allow for the new batteries to be mixed in and for that system to be expanded upon later. So here you can see in 2013, 2.6 kilowatt hour batteries, providing 20.8 kilowatt hours. And then in 2015, this was actually almost 3 years later, it was almost 2016 here, they actually decided to add more batteries. Power demands, energy demands were growing, and up to 41.6 kilowatt hours. This can be really nice when you're sizing off-grid systems. You know, if the customer decides to add some stuff without letting you know, it's really easy to go ahead and just add more batteries on and have that option available. Here's a great example of a bigger scaled system. So this is 88 batteries in parallel, over 300 kilowatt hours. And you can see here that these are just 48 volt modules, and they are just running each of them in parallel to build up this large system, even using these smaller 48 volt modules. And as true with almost all lithium batteries, no maintenance. So there's no off-gassing. You know, they're self-contained, stable. You're not going to need to do any watering or specific gravity checks or anything like that. You don't need to build a battery box or any kind of venting. Super easy to work with, no maintenance, and a really low self-discharge rate, meaning the battery is not just going to discharge itself over time, just sitting there idling. This can be really helpful when we're talking about a backup system, or maybe the customer just wants that battery to idle until it's time for them to pull that energy from the battery during a power outage, and really make sure that that energy is available when they need it. So this is a great example of what it looks like when we kind of dive into the lead acid world and the lead acid replacement. Over here on the left is the before picture of this system. You can see it's in a battery box. These are flooded lead acid batteries, probably some sort of vent fan built into the system, a lot of corrosion, and a lot of batteries. The system on the right was actually what replaced this system. You can see they cut down probably by it's about a third of the size of the original bank. But surprisingly, it's actually more energy and more power than the original bank out of those 8 batteries versus this larger system on the left here. A little bit cleaner, can go on the wall, we can wall mount it, you know, we can run the wires a little bit cleaner. We don't have all these different thermal connections here where we're checking for the temperature compensation and things like that. All right, so just a kind of overview of some of our main products, and then we'll go into some more details about those products. So the staple products of our line currently is the 24 volt and 48 volt models. Current sizes 2.7 and 3.5 are really kind of the clear winners, the 3.5 especially as being the main product as far as going out of our manufacturing facility. So these come at 105 amp hours at 24 volts and 52 amp hours at 48 volts. The 3.5, 138 amp hours at 24 volts and 69 amp hours at 48 volts. All come with an integrated battery management system, integrated circuit breaker for ease of installation, and really these were designed as drop-in lead acid replacements. There's tons of different applications we can use them for now, but if you are doing a drop-in lead acid replacement, that's what we had in mind when we built these. They're super easy to work with in that sense, and there's not a lot of adjustments other than maybe some programming to take care of. I've been asked by our director just to mention this, as it is public now. We are shifting towards the little bit larger capacity in these 2 batteries. So the white one on the left will be a 2.9 kilowatt hour battery, and on the right we will have our 3.8 kilowatt hour batteries. So a little bit larger on the cells in order to make a bit of a larger building block. We also have our all-in-one system. We call it our access line. What this is a NEMA 3R enclosure, so outdoor rated enclosure with batteries built into it, with an inverter, with the charger, all built in, pre-wired, pre-programmed, and ready to go. I've got a whole section of slides kind of a little bit farther down in the presentation where we'll really dig in what the access is and what options it has. And we still have some kind of smaller products. These are actually what a lot of the company got started on long back in the day before we were even building these residential sized batteries. These small kind of portable power packs for emergencies, for portable power, still utilizing the same lithium iron phosphate chemistry and same manufacturing process. But if you ever want to check those out, just let us know. They're actually even available kind of one-offs just to get these littler products, but they're great for, actually they're great for solar installations as well, to bring on site, to charge tools, things like that. Okay, so I like to always put a little bit of sales things in to my presentations. Oftentimes, even if I'm speaking to a room full of installers, the installer is the salesperson as well. Oftentimes, the two are hand in hand. So, levelized cost of energy. This is LCOE. This is what we're talking about when we're trying to really dig down and compare two different batteries, whether it's a lithium to a lithium, or a lithium even to a lead acid, or a different chemistry. What customers are often looking for is, what is the cost overall? What is the cost over time? What's under the warranty? How does that affect the cost? And kind of going beyond that, just upfront cost. So here we have the equation itself. It's just price over capacity times the amount of cycles actually warranted at a certain depth of discharge and times the efficiency. So this is actually the efficiency and depth of discharge here. We can also add in some things, ancillary costs. If you're the installer, this is really easy to add in, as you oftentimes know your own cost to bring things on site. You know, is one battery lighter than the other? Is it going to cost less? Is it going to cost less equipment? We try to build our batteries in small building blocks so that you don't need things like forklifts, pallet jacks. Just you can carry them right on site and put the system together like that. So this is an example of actually using that LCOE, that levelized cost of energy, with our batteries. In this case, we were using it with a 3.5, I believe, just going off MSRP. And we were dividing that by the capacity, so the 3.5 kilowatt hours. We were using 90% depth of discharge in this case, as the competitor only had a warranty at 90%. So because it is 90%, we know we warranty 5,000 cycles. We plug that into the equation, times the efficiency rate of the battery. 98% is actually the efficiency of the lithium iron phosphate Simpliphi battery. And we come out with 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is the overall cost of ownership of this battery. Now, when we plugged in a certain, I won't specify, lithium competitor, this competitor actually was less expensive out of the gate, meaning up front. But in the end, actually became more expensive, as they only warranted 3,000 cycles, as well as had a smaller usable capacity. So it really does matter if you're looking at a customer that is kind of, you know, interested in the ROI, understanding the return on investment. This is a helpful tool, and we actually even have, I think I have it in the next slide here. Yep, perfect. So we actually even have an LCOE calculator now built into our website. You can go ahead and put these numbers in yourself. You can put your own cost in. So if you're buying from the distributor, you know what your cost of one battery is versus your cost of another battery. So you can type that straight into this calculator and actually get these numbers and a little bit of a brief kind of write-up to show the customer, in order to kind of take the guess and check work out of presenting these batteries to the customer. We have some other great tools if you ever need any kind of sales help. We've got some proposal tools on our website, like using Energy Toolbase, SAM, PV Cell. These are all helpful, and you can find them on our resources page through our website. Okay, so just a little bit about battery sizing, and then I'm going to go into installation, and we'll kind of wrap up with some kind of newer products and then questions. So, as far as battery sizing, I already mentioned this. We have different levels of warranties depending on different depths of discharge and what you're actually pulling that battery down to. So, why would you use one versus another? If you look here, in this case, you'll actually see that at let's say 9, you have a battery backup system. You know, this is not something that we need to cycle daily by any means. So if you go back here, 5,000 or maybe even 3,500 cycles is plenty when it comes to this system. That'll be plenty to get them to that 10-year warranty mark. So in that case, we could use 8 or 90 or 100% depth of discharge. Off-grid is the other side of the coin there. You wouldn't want to use 100% depth of discharge on an off-grid system. We want to maximize. We want to get these 10,000 cycles within that 10-year period. We don't want to hit those cycles before that 10-year period. We want to really maximize that warranty. So if you ever have any questions of what depth of discharge to use, feel free to reach out to us. Really, it's always going to be dependent on your mode of operation. But if you ever just need the base kind of recommendation from us, we typically recommend 80% as kind of the standard, you know, without question. Okay, really quick, easy tool here. People often ask me about inverter to battery sizing. As far as how many batteries you can have to one inverter, there's really no limit to how many. If you keep adding and adding, that's fine. But there is kind of a minimum that we try to stick with. And that is that the battery should be sized to twice the inverter's output capability. Meaning if you have an 8,000 watt inverter, you really want 16 kilowatt hours of battery. This just really adheres to that C/2 guideline. Oftentimes, inverters don't have the ability to limit the output. So if you stick within that C/2, you're going to make sure that there's no chance of ever damaging the battery. If you do need to go into those kind of, I have one battery and a 3,000 watt inverter, I definitely would recommend checking out my more advanced trainings that we have posted on our website that go over some techniques to ensure that the battery is safe on that system. Okay, sorry here, let me see if I can get this to work here. Okay, so this is an example of if you are doing any lead acid replacements and kind of understanding the sizing behind that. So I won't bore you too much as we have this live on our website with an actual tool that helps do this for you. But basically we can see here, we wanted to factor in a few things like depth of discharge versus the lead acid depth of discharge, the lack of heating and cooling losses, and even the efficiency rate being different. And you can see, you know, this is what we were comparing, a 450 amp hour 48 volt AGM. And what we were replacing is with a 3.5 48 volt. And we come out with that big bank just being replaced with 4 batteries. I believe I actually pulled this example straight from that picture I had shown you earlier with the lead acid batteries. Okay, let's take a little bit into installation. This is really kind of the basics of installation. If you're looking for some more advanced stuff, I've got tons of other trainings that are online or that I host through our website that go into really kind of more advanced techniques on the installation. But this is kind of the quick overview of what to know. Sorry, hold on. It seems like it's getting stuck here. Give me 1 second. Okay, there it goes. There we go. All right, perfect. If you ever need any sort of documentation from our website, go to simpliphipower.com, go to the product documentation area. You'll find so many good resources, manuals, spec sheets, integration guides, which are really, we'll show a little bit out of that integration guide coming up here, but these are great for integrating with products and really understanding the language of that product. Some other tools to use. We have the battery sizing tool I mentioned. That's on our website. We have some engineering services if you ever are looking for those. If you ever need some kind of single line diagrams or things like that, we can help direct you in the right direction. And I don't have the link on here right now because it just went live, but we also have some wiring guides as well on the website to help kind of show you how to size the wire correctly. Obviously, some jurisdictions will change, but this is kind of the basics. Okay, so if you are shipping, receiving the batteries, always important to check the battery for damage. Right out of the box, you know, it never can hurt just to make the trucker wait, to make whoever is dropping off the batteries, wait a little bit, you make sure the battery's okay before signing. As far as mounting goes, we have basically no clearance requirements whatsoever. So if you're going batteries right up against each other, as long as those terminals, of course, are not touching, you're totally fine. You're good to go. You can put the batteries actually on their sides as well, and you can even mount them on the wall. Not a requirement though. If you want to use your own, we have our brackets that we provide as an option. But if you wanted to use your own brackets or a battery box, battery rack, we really aren't super strict as far as mounting and clearance requirements. Okay, so this is a little bit about kind of our wiring technique. So we do things a little bit differently when we're talking about parallel wiring connections. We basically wouldn't go the traditional way of jumping from battery to battery up to a connection point. What we'd actually want to do is go from each battery and we run up onto a common bus. So what this does is actually allows us to distribute power evenly amongst the bank, keep that high efficiency, and really scale these systems up. So these wires will each be same length, same wire, or sorry, same length, same size, each running separately to a bus. We'll jump through this because we have the guide now. I encourage you to look through it, but it'll kind of go through how to really understand what those different wire sizes would be and what even the connection like the 3/8 lug. This is a great example here. This is actually an example of the wiring being done with some older batteries of ours. You can see number 4 gauge coming into the combiner box. They're running all these cables into the combiner, and then 2/0 coming out. So, these kind of things you can find on our website for examples, but really, call us if you have any questions about this wiring technique. We're happy to help. We're also happy to direct you in the case of battery combiners like this one, using power panels, using basic DC buses, and how to make sure those all work. You can even use bus bars on the batteries if they are rated correctly. Okay, sorry here, it's getting stuck one more time on me. My computer's not loving me. There it goes. Okay, so this is an example of an actual system using that combiner box, each cable running down, connecting to the combiner box, and then single cables, or in this case, double cables, because of how many batteries, running out to each of the inverters. So this person used breakers, they use surge protectors, not a requirement by any means, but a little extra protection never hurts. And torque specifications. This one comes up a lot. These are our torque specifications, 160 inches per pound, 13.3 foot-pounds. I encourage everyone to use a proper torque wrench. I've seen some installers tell me, that they used an impact wrench on and they hurt the terminals, and then we have to send the battery back and get the terminals replaced. So definitely good to always use a proper torque wrench and always calibrate your torque wrench. I've also had a few people that just kept using the same. They were doing a lot of battery installs. They kept it right at that same torque value, never reset it, and eventually it became uncalibrated and they did some damage to the torque, to the actual terminals on top of the battery. Okay, so if we look here, we can actually see kind of a little bit excerpt out of our integration guide. So basically what this is showing is how we kind of commission the system with different products like the OUTBACK or the SCHNEIDER, or whatever kind of product you're actually setting up with. So you can see here on the right, goes through things like equalize, bulk voltage, absorb voltage, various settings like that, and even kind of goes into some more advanced stuff. So basically this one's for the SCHNEIDER, but if you go, you can find almost all the different kind of main products that we pair with on those integration guides that show how to set up things like this. If you're looking for some more really advanced features, you can always give us a call. We'll talk about things like cell or AGS triggers, or again, some of my more advanced stuff my more advanced presentations, like the recent one I did, which is posted on our website, really goes through these programmings and how to kind of set them up using various settings. So I won't bore you too much with that, but I encourage you to look around, shoot us over any questions about the programming that we kind of lay out in these guides. Okay, a little excerpt out of the manual you might see is that we say to fully charge the battery before connecting or before commissioning. What we really mean is fully charge that battery before connecting the loads. So program the system, let those batteries get to full charge, and then connect the loads when you're commissioning a new system. This helps kind of just get that first balance, that first initial charge, and makes the system run really smoothly from the very beginning. Okay, this is our charge and discharge curves. Basically, you know, the important part that you want to look for is the SOC and voltage correlation. So you can see here, we consider 0% state of charge, 48.0 volts, and engineering considers 100% resting state of charge to be 52.5. I find that in the field, that's closer to 53.0 volts is 100% resting state of charge. So even if you're charging at like 54.4, 55, even 56 volts, the second that charger disconnects, the battery will go into its resting state of charge, and likely you will see somewhere around 53 volts as 100% charged. The tricky one, oftentimes coming out of lead acid, if you're used to doing those lead acid installs, is that 48.0 being the absolute lowest the battery is going to go. Anything beyond that is far too low for that battery to operate in. And if we do that too many times, we can often cause damage to some of the components within the battery. So we always want low battery cutout minimum to be 48.0. Okay, a little bit about code requirements. Whatever your code is, wherever you are, you know, as far as batteries go, it's still kind of a newer thing. Oftentimes code requirements are not specific to batteries. They're specific to things like rapid shutdown, especially here in the States, definitely rapid shutdown compliant. So if you ever have any questions about things like that, we can always direct you towards some of our partners that we work with on those code requirements, things like the Birdhouse through Midnight. Tygo has some shutoffs. Midnight Solar also has their own shutoff boxes, and even some kind of more advanced stuff through like the PV RSS. So I won't bore you too much with the rapid shutdown compliance stuff, but if you ever need any help with that, feel free to reach out to us and we can direct you in the right direction. If you're using our access solution and you do require rapid shutdown compliance, if it's an AC coupled access, so it's using microinverters on the solar array or even a string inverter, then it's already rapid shutdown compliant. The access edition does not change anything. Okay, so let's talk about the access. So the access currently was using our 3.5 kilowatt hour 48 volt batteries. I actually don't know. I'd have to ask the salespeople. I think we still might have some of these moving out before we actually switch the access over to the larger 3.8 kilowatt hours. They are pre-wired, they are pre-programmed, they are NEMA 3R rated for outdoor use, and they come with inverter charger and batteries built in. Currently, they come with two different styles, so either the SCHNEIDER access or the OUTBACK access. The big difference here is just the components that are in it, whether we're looking at the XW Plus Pro in the SCHNEIDER or the OUTBACK Radiant in the OUTBACK system. The batteries are still the same, they're still our batteries. They both can come AC coupled or DC coupled. So whether you have an existing array or just want to use microinverters, you can always AC couple, or if you want to go more traditional route, you can add that optional charge controller in. So you can see here the charge controller here, this is an optional purchase, but then you can add that in and go DC coupled. No matter which option you go with, the great advantage is, you know, you have your grid here, we have the ability to automatically disconnect from that grid, go into island mode. That's all built into the access, no matter which option you go with. If you go AC coupled, great advantage is bringing back online that solar array and actually kind of creating a bit of a micro system within your home, a little mini grid, if you would, to actually operate on while the homeowner has no power. DC coupled, the array will stay on no matter what. They can also house generators as well. We do have optional HES switches for the access solution if you want to go that route. As far as installing the access, hardest part probably is bringing the access on site. It is all-in-one, so it is shipped on its side in this crate to avoid damage. It's not light by any means. I think last time I heard somebody had mentioned 700 pounds. So it is a heavy unit because it is all-in-one. It's NEMA 3R rated. Once it is in site, though, it's pretty straightforward and everything's ready to go. NEMA 3R, mentioned it a couple times, but if you're picking a site outdoors, you're good. You're okay to go. Cold temperature-wise, we do have some solutions. They do use some power, though, to heat the inside of the unit. But in most cases, the inverter heat, if the system is running enough, is enough to keep it warm. And as far as warm climates, we do have a fan built in to pull out excess heat. You can always do indoor installations. That's totally fine. There's no gassing. There's no chance of thermal runaway. So it's not a problem whatsoever. Okay, so programming. It does come pre-programmed. So out of the box, if you were to not touch any programming whatsoever, it would function. Most installers that have done a couple of them have kind of some mode of operation settings that they want to adjust just a little bit, depending on the customer, depending on the use case. So we do allow for those adjustments to take place through the systems. But again, if you didn't want to change anything, this system is ready to go. You could always adjust some more advanced features only. And as far as monitoring goes, we're just using the basic monitoring setup through these various platforms. So Schneider has the COMBOX, soon to be, I believe, the Gateway. This is just a basic way to get this on your phone, on your tablet, the customer, the installer, whoever it is wants to look at it, to see some historical data, as well as to be able to see real-time data of what's going on in the system. The OUTBACK's virtually the exact same thing. Historical data, real-time data. The big difference is the Mate 3 with Optics RE and the OUTBACK access allows for super easy remote connection. So basically you can connect to the system remotely as the installer and make changes if need be. Oftentimes this can be really helpful with remote sites where you don't want to be able to have to drive all the way out there just to make a simple change on the programming that's really easy to make from your living room right through the Optics RE. So a helpful tool. Okay, the Express, one of our newer products. The Express unit is a smaller version of our all-in-one. It's NEMA 3R rated as well. It comes in two different sizes, which I'll go into here in a second. But really what it's meant for is some really quick, easy to use stuff. So it comes with a DC Quick Connect inlet for PV charging, where you can actually go right into this MPPT. You can actually disconnect the panels if you wanted. Also comes with an AC inlet for charging from the grid or another AC source. Comes with 4 outlets for discharging straight from the unit without having to hardwire into a loads panel, and 2 USB ports to cover things like cell phones and laptops. Now, this can be hardwired. You can buy. We do have knockouts built into this system, so if you did want to bypass these kind of easy to use quick connects, you could hardwire in with AC power, hardwire in with DC power, and even hardwire out to a loads panel. So it is capable of that as well. The size difference, one is 5.4 kilowatts total, kilowatt hours, excuse me, total, and one is 7 kilowatt hours total. If you do need 240 volts, so 120, 240, we want to go with the Express 48 volt. If you only need 120 loads, the Express 24 volt has it covered. Those are really the big differences between the two units. But again, you can either use the hardwired connections or you always have the option of just using the kind of easy to use quick connects here. Customer could charge this up from their garage, stow it away until the power goes out, and then plug loads directly into the unit. Okay, another one of our kind of newer products, the high voltage commercial industrial use products. These are the same building blocks that we typically use in our other batteries. This is actually a 3.2 kilowatt hour building block, but instead of putting them in parallel, we allow for these batteries to go in series. So when we put them in series, we actually have some kind of limits here where we can go. We can go 200, 800 VDC nominal, building these blocks up. This is really going to be helpful when using things like, large-scale microgrids, maybe a large-scale backup that requires 480 volt power, three-phase. This will pair really nicely with those larger inverters. You can really scale up to 2 megawatt hours of storage, and kind of keep it around that before we kind of get into that larger scale stuff. So that's really where this lands. It does come with an external BMS. So this is the external battery management system. This has CAN bus, Ethernet, Modbus built into it for communications. This is different from our internal, as they have these connections. So you can see here where we're actually running down into each one. The battery management system is not even sitting in the battery. This can make swapping out units if you have a really large system super easy. And again, with this external battery management system, we have all those communication protocols built up, ready to go. And we can connect to some more advanced kind of SCADA networks and asset managers to really build up a large-scale microgrid or anything like that. If you ever need any kind of information, this is a bit of a newer project, just let us know. We do things kind of a little bit more on a case-by-case with helping out on these projects, and we have some more specific members of our team that handle the C&I stuff right now. Okay, as far as warranty, I think we've kind of beat it up already, so we all kind of have an understanding. If you're looking for anything, go to our warranty itself. You'll find tables like this that go over various parameters, even voltage set points that fall in line with things like 80% depth of discharge. So, you can see here 50.2 called out in the warranty as how low you want to discharge the battery to hit that 80% depth of discharge. As far as obtaining warranty services, we have a very low rate of actual RMAs, return merchandise authorizations. I think last year was less than 1% of batteries sold. But if it does happen, we try to make it as easy as possible. We can handle it directly. You don't have to go back through the distributor. We want them to not have to worry about it. So you can come straight to us. We take care of our warranties, and we'll handle it from there. So we'll be able to talk, get some requested things like single lines, POs, pictures, try to walk you through. Maybe it isn't an RMA. Oftentimes what feels like the battery is damaged is just something that's a little bit off in the system, so that we can properly get the battery back if we really need to and figure out what's going on in order to get a new battery on site and get everything fixed up. Okay, looks like my slides were a little out of place there. I don't think there's actually anything there or there. Okay, post-installation. So this is the last little kind of section I have for the Q&A. Real quick, we'll just kind of go through this. As far as post-installation goes, checking health on the lithium battery is not that important. You can always check the voltages, make sure everything seems really even across the board. But other than that, just keep an eye out for things like battery breakers tripping, maybe the low battery cutouts happening too often when it shouldn't be. A battery management system open circuit, meaning these batteries are not showing voltage anymore, but the battery breaker is still in the on position, or any other signs of damage. I always encourage people, reach out to our tech support either by email or just call us directly if you ever see any of these issues. The sooner we look at this, we can figure out why the system is causing. Oftentimes it might be a system is programmed incorrectly, or maybe it's too large, maybe the customer is pulling too much power off the battery. So the second you see any of these events occur, it's always good to reach out and we can help out. All right, that's all I have on this presentation. So Cameron, I believe we had it set up for a little bit of time for Q&A, correct?
That is correct, Troy. Thanks so much for doing the presentation. Really appreciate that, as I'm sure all of our installers do as well. And everybody, if you have some questions, please type them in right now, and I'd be happy to ask them on your behalf. Thank you very much for coming today. We do have one here from Greg, and his question is there an upper end life cycle, such as number of years, when they're used as backup battery with low cycling?
Sure. I'll plead the fifth a bit there. So it's 10,000 cycles, 10 years is the maximum the warranty will allow. You could expect that if you were using a battery backup and it's only discharging every now and again, or maybe a handful of times in a year, that you'll see a longer lifespan out of that battery. We don't necessarily have the exact figures, data on that, but I would expect it well beyond the warranty period.
And if anybody else has questions, get them in quickly here, and we will absolutely ask them. Otherwise, you can email myself or Troy, and we would be happy to help you with that. And Jay has actually got another question for you. Can you show Can you show the first slide that shows the different types of lithium batteries?
Way back.
Right at the beginning, of course.
It's all right. That's a good slide. I like to use that one, and I can always put the presentation out to everyone afterwards. No problem at all, as a PDF. There it is.
Yeah, that's. There are some real advantages there in your manufacturing.
Yeah, and I would say so. When we look at the big thing, I'll admit from the very beginning here, when you look at retained capacity and cycle lives, this is really talking about cells themselves and not how the battery's put together. So I think it's a bit, they're underselling the other chemistries, but like I always say, more importantly, the thermal runaway, the cooling system, that's really why this slide is so important. And this is why I kind of present on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anybody else has some questions, like Troy just said, he's happy to send the PDF of the deck. Yep. Otherwise, Troy, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate this training, and yeah, look forward to some busy seasons coming up.
Glad to hear it. Yep. Please, anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to email me.
It looks like we got one last one that's come in. Hold on one second here. For a cottage that is closed for the winter and in Northern Ontario, does it need to be heated?
So it's going to depend. So I mean, this question comes up quite a bit up in the north. I mean, it's definitely one of the main questions I get whenever I'm up in Canada in general. It's if you're going to completely disconnect the battery, so the whole system is being turned off. We actually have an even lower temperature. I believe it's currently, I think it's negative 20 C is where we're sitting at with storage, or maybe actually, you know what, I believe it's about to be changed to negative 30 C storage. But if it is operating, then you would need to just make sure that it falls within that 0 degrees Celsius. So as long as it can stay there, you're okay. We do have some heating pad options that we can always direct you towards, where basically the heating pad only comes on if it's tripped by a thermostat, just to get that battery up to a reasonable temperature.
Perfect. Okay, Troy, thanks again. And everybody that joined us today, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to a great season coming up, and have a great day.
Thanks.